If someone gets infected, you've got between 10 and 20 seconds to kill them. It might be your brother or your sister or your oldest friend. It makes no difference. And just so you know where you stand, if it happens to you, I'll do it in a heartbeat.
We've fled this whole notion of rage and, the modern malaise and the infection of it. And we come into something that's even more frightening, which is where that notion of survival hits base and where it's every man for himself.
The world is over, and it's just how you deal with continuing life.
Do you know what I was thinking?
You were thinking that you'll never hear another piece of original music ever again. You'll never read a book that hasn't already been written, or see a film that hasn't already been shot.
That's what you were thinking.
In 28 Days Later, the filmmakers created a thoroughly gripping vision of a country crippled by a new disease.
For me, when you read a screenplay that's a good screenplay, you see the film, and that's the way Alex writes. If you've read The Beach, whatever you think of the story, I think you visualize it, you want to know what happens next.
What attracted me most about the script was the intelligence of it and the issues that it was trying to investigate and the comment it was making on society in general.
If you look at the whole life of the planet, man has only been around for a few blinks of an eye. So if the infection wipes us all out, that is a return to normality.
I thought the script was terrifying. I thought it was a real page turner.
When I find myself saying the lines in my head, I usually figure it's not, I wouldn't be miscasting it.
I thought, I was reading it thinking, oh, this is my kind of film. And so it's like I'd go to watch it in the cinemas, and so.
That's what I said to him. I said, I like this, Danny, it's terrifying. Good.
In maintaining a realistic edge to the film, the filmmakers decided to use a cast of less familiar actors.
Jim is like the everyman, do you know what I mean? He's just the guy off the street, he's the bike courier. He wakes up out of a coma in a hospital, and the hospital is just completely abandoned, and he walks out onto Westminster Bridge, and London is just desolate, and there's signs of that something unusual has gone down.
Selena is one of the people who's survived the rage virus that's been set loose. She's had to shut down emotionally in order to survive, so she's quite cold. You should be more concerned about whether they're going to slow you down.
Right, because if they slowed you down...
I'd leave them behind.
In a heartbeat?
Yeah.
I wouldn't.
And you're going to wind up getting yourself killed.
I have this wonderful relationship with my daughter, and we're hiding out in a survival mode in a high-rise flat. He was just a very beautifully written character.
We have a spare room. In there. Are you and Selena? No. No, I'll take the living room. It's fine. Right.
I play a character called Major Henry West, who's a senior officer in the British Army. He and his 8 soldiers are uninfected, but basically what he's done is he's taken over a stately pile, a mansion, and he's made it impregnable.
High perimeter wall, which helps. And we've been lacing the ground with tripwires and landmines. You wouldn't want to mow the lawn, but if they get in, we hear them.
She doesn't trust the army saying that they have the answer to infection, and she knows that there actually is no answer to infection.
He represents the head and Jim represents the heart, and ultimately there's conflict between the two.
I want to give you a chance. You can be with us.
To create a more urban feel to the images, the filmmakers chose digital video over film.
I think it's beautiful for urban work. It has a grittiness about it that's magnificent for your city movie, really.
Hey. What's that?
Let's go.
This is the way we record our lives. We're surrounded in this city by cameras. They're everywhere, and they're all these DV cameras, all types of them, and they're recording our every motion all the time.
it definitely suits the story, suits the British story, particularly that sort of slightly rough edge.
I think when you want something like this to feel really real, you know, it's an appropriate medium to use.
Hello? A few occasions, you know, you might just go, phew, and there's a camera there, so you have to be aware of it all the time, you know. But it's great because you can get so many different perspectives and you can do things that you can't do with big 35mm cameras.
You can't just sort of wait for your single or for your close-up shot or whatever. You're always mindful there's at least 2 cameras on the go.
Which you've got to be aware of as an actor, because you can sometimes think it's a wide and there's one stuck in there that is covering you very close.
The film shows a post-apocalyptic landscape created in the aftermath of the epidemic. But creating a completely deserted vision of London was no easy task.
We never would have shot that with film. The police were quite happy to assist us, and the councils to assist us doing it because we could do it so quickly. We could be ready to shoot in literally minutes.
Walking around deserted London was a big buzz.
It was action and you're in it, you know, and there was nothing there. And once you get into that space in your head, it was just fantastic, you know.
What we tried to do was try and find kind of iconic images that, again, did the work of a huge, huge budget, you know.
When you see the whole of Westminster Bridge and the embankment all closed for you, and the traffic stop and you can't hear anything, it's pretty exciting.
The triumph of actually managing to make that look deserted, I think, is quite, you know, it's incredible.
One of the problems with emptying London now is that, like, I think probably before dance music, you could have probably done it. But now, because of dance culture, of course, which has opened clubs, people are piling out of the clubs at dawn, you know, and they overlap with all the kind of people arriving to clean the offices.
The filming also required an entire section of the M1 to be closed.
I think they only gave us, was it 2 or 3 goes at it? So you don't have very much time, and so you're just under a great deal of pressure to kind of get this right.
There was like windows where you have, like, I don't know, 3 or 4 minutes to get the shot where the traffic's held down the road. So it was brilliant, but it was a weird experience again to see a motorway of that size just empty.
That was unbelievable. I thought that was quite chilling, actually, that set, with the motorway blocked off and a big sign for Manchester and desolation.
Must be Manchester.
The whole of Manchester, the whole city.
When you do it for real, things happen, you know, actors are different, and it changes everything because suddenly it's there for the actors. They don't have to imagine that the traffic will be removed or that the dinosaur will be there. You know, it actually is there for them.
The film also required a large team of makeup artists to create the infected look.
We've been experiencing a lot of gore at the moment.
A lot of gore.
Lots of buckets of fake blood and
gallons of spewy bile and edible vomit and all sorts of different variations on blood. But you become immune to it. I mean, you know, you'd be sitting down having your lunch, head to foot, and
it's a bit surreal. You're sitting there and then there's just like an infected person walking past or eating when they're like sitting next to you and whatever.
Yeah, it is very gruesome, very gruesome. I still got a bit of him in my teeth, look.
Danny, he really likes all that stuff, doesn't he? Because he's behind the monitor, you know. And I thought, oh yeah, it's a sort of a recurring thing with Danny, this sort of ultra-violence.
There's 2 kind of effects in the film, really, to try and create a kind of both a plausible world, i.e. a post-apocalyptic plausible world, and also an atmospheric world that has a strange atmosphere about it.
The one that really got me was the rain, because rain is really makes things so difficult, because by the time you got the rain right and the light right and the angle so you could see the rain and then trying to do the shot, you know, that was very difficult.
We used the digital effects more to try and create an atmosphere, particular use of colours in the film. Because you're in a digital medium anyway, it's very responsive. You can actually play with the visual impact of the film in different ways. You know, there's a freedom to do that.
Essential for the action sequences was a high level of fitness, and some of the cast endured military training.
We had a 2-3 day boot camp where we did military exercises.
It was an experience, to tell you that much. It was I'm used to staying indoors overnight and stuff like that. That didn't really work out.
It was hard stuff, but I'm glad I did it. I'm glad I stuck it out because I think it's all showing on screen.
And they're putting us right on the edge sometimes, aren't they, with the stuff that you're doing.
There's a rule in the army, but force is generally a leap and a bound. You should never be more than a leap and a bound away from your own personal weapon. And after 2 days, they're starting to get it, and you can see them getting nervous when they're a little bit further away from their own weapon.
I used both the machine gun and then a mounted machine gun, which is I find pretty frightening, to be honest. You know, I didn't particularly get a buzz out of it. It's not something that I enjoy, but you know, I can see why a certain sort of man may feel more potent.
And then we had 2 days actually here on location, teaching them basic infantry skills, as well as the specific tasks that they all need to carry out in each individual scene.
Learned a little bit how to move like a soldier, and obviously how to think like a soldier.
Actors learn a lot more quickly than soldiers do, which is a great relief. Otherwise, we would have had to be here for 6 months before we did this.
I do, you know, I use my imagination a lot of the time. That's what my job's about.
28 Days Later is proving a hard film to categorise.
Action.
Science fiction horror.
Horror.
Horror slasher.
We sell it and present it, I think, as a horror movie.
Disaster.
One thing is certain.
It's a warning for us as well as an entertainment, you know.
The threat of new disease is increasing.
As a society, we're being miles too careless with our medicine. We are definitely assuming that we can cure anything.
And the human race should be on high alert.
Are we safe in the first world from infectious diseases? Certainly not. I wouldn't say so.
It's dark stuff, you know.
My own belief is that we're not very close to a major pandemic occurring. But then, had you asked me 20 years ago, did I think that the advent of HIV was a likelihood, I would have given the same answer.
But don't worry. You're quite safe here.
The thing that's going to scare you or horrify you is a reality-based thing.
If you want to go and be entertained, purely you will be by the film, but also if you want to go and have a think about it, you can too. It'll stimulate that, you know.